you, ma'am, and I'm really embarrassed actually. It's such a generous introduction. Thanks a lot, and I'm also thankful to Sir and MEI for giving me this platform to discuss this monograph, which this book on Erdogan's Turkey. I actually started this research work after joining IDSA. So I'm also thankful to IDSA for kind of putting me to do this research. As many of you who have known me since JNU know that I have focused most of my research on Saudi Arabia, and as far as my research interest is concerned, my first love is Saudi Arabia, and I've kind of IDSA has given me that space to follow my research interest in Saudi Arabia and simultaneously work on Turkey as well. And in that sense, it has also given me an opportunity to grow as a researcher. And I'm also thankful to Dr. Meena Singh Roy, who has been instrumental in kind of putting me in terms of convincing me actually to undertake this research on Turkey. So, that is something which I'm thankful to her also. Actually, I was also kind of a little worried that after this presentation and once this video goes on the social media, there would be more trolls on my Twitter and Facebook account from Turkey, perhaps. But anyways, jokes apart, actually, as kind of evident from the title, the book is actually about Erdogan's Turkey. I did not start with this kind of title when I started working on this project. This was not the title which I started, but over a period of time, once I thought of publishing this monograph, I thought this would be more appropriate, a more reflective title in terms of what is going on in Turkey as far as the current situation is concerned. And another reason, people who follow Turkey, they are aware that if you look at the debate around Erdogan and the debate around the political situation in Turkey, there's been lots of discussion about the way Erdogan has evolved into an authoritarian ruler, or the way he has become very dictatorial in terms of how he conducts his government, and also in terms of his desire as a pan-Islamist leader, his desire to kind of revive the lost Ottoman glory and to emerge as a new Ottoman empire, and all that. We are aware of all these debates. But I thought rather than just using these nomenclatures, why not go a little deep into into what is happening in Turkey, into what there was. If you look at the democratization issue as far as Turkey is concerned, one of the primary reasons why actually AKP could come to power through a free and fair election was the democratization process that has preceded the rise of AKP. Towards the end of the 20th century, you can say that a number of issues were brought in terms of reforms, political reforms, in terms of judiciary and other things. So the process had started earlier, and that helped kind of AKP and Erdogan come to power. Maybe one can argue that the factors responsible, or the driving factors responsible for that reforms, was Turkey's desire to join the EU, for the EU membership. But there were some internal factors as well. The way Turkish polity evolved in terms of since the establishment of modern Turkey, the modern republic. But these are some of the issues which were in mind when I started working on this issue. So what I thought was to take up at least three parameters and look at them in a very systematic way, to determine as to what are the issues involved as far as the democratization dilemmas of Turkey is concerned, especially under the current government, which had come to power in 2002, and then until 2020 it is still continuing. And in future also, it seems with the way the direction in which the Turkish polity is evolving, it seems we will continue to see Erdogan at helm for some time at least in future also. So the three parameters which I took was one, the status of or the evolution of the political institutions, that is the legislature, the Grand National Assembly, and how whether it has remained in terms of its power, in terms of its composition, and also in terms of the role of executive or the nature of executive, which has also kind of evolved in many ways, and judiciary, obviously. So this is one aspect, the political institutions. The second parameter is the issue of civil-military relations, or the role of military in politics. We all know, if we look at the evolution of Turkey as a republic, we know that the military has played a very significant role in the evolution of the country, in the evolution of modern Turkey, and because of that, it has also been a dominant player as far as the politics is concerned in Turkey. So that also is an important factor, and that's why I thought it would be important to look at this factor. The third is the public sphere. Now, all these three have been discussed in the book in three separate chapters in greater details. I have also used some of the primary materials, for example, the constitutional amendment bills, and so on and so forth. And also I've talked to some of the, I've been able to talk to some of the Turkish scholars, either based in Turkey, but most based in outside Turkey, because in the case of people who are within Turkey, they have been very circumspect in terms of, coming up with their views. So that is something which is important. But again, a lot of secondary material also available through IDSA library, the rich resource which is available in the library, that also I've used. So that is something which is in terms of the outline of the book. So let me also now come to the three issues which are, I think, important as far as the evolution of Turkish polity is concerned. Now, if we look at the political institutions in the last 2 decades, since the coming to power of the AKP, they have evolved. There has been some systemic changes that have been brought in, both in terms of the political reforms or the way political discourse has happened, and as well as in terms of constitutional amendments which have been brought to make to make certain changes and to bring reforms. For example, reforms started and as I mentioned in the beginning, that the process of reforms had preceded the coming into power of Turkey, AKP and Erdogan. But after coming to power of AKP also, the process continued. For example, in 2004, constitutional amendments were brought, then again in 2007, then in 2011, some of the issues were brought in terms of, the issue of scarves and all that. In terms of judicial reforms also were brought. In 2013 also some changes were brought. And then, but the most important as far as the political institutions are concerned was brought in 2017. And that is a 18-article amendment, constitutional amendment package that replaced 76 articles of the Constitution, the 1982 Constitution of Turkey, and this had a profound impact on the not only in terms of the structure but also in terms of the future evolution of the political system. I think it will have a very profound impact, and that is why, if you look at the debate within Turkey and the analysis of the situation outside Turkey also, there was a very strong debate that this is something which is important and which should perhaps be not actually happen as the way is happened. It happened in 2017. The process started sometime in 2015-16. Then it went through a series of debates within the Grand National Assembly. Eventually, in January 2017, it was passed by the Parliament, by the Assembly, through a 2/3 majority, since it was a constitutional amendment. And then it was put for a referendum. So in April 2017, a referendum took place where eventually it was approved through that referendum, but with a very slim margin. So actually for the people who voted in favor was just over 51%, and those who were against was 48% plus. So, and there were also allegations of, for example, fudging of votes. There were international observers also who said that there are the fairness of the referendum can be have been compromised at certain levels. So that is something which is important to keep in mind, that it was not a very smooth, clear-cut victory as far as the constitutional amendment was concerned. It was concerned. Now, one of the most important thing which happened was that the system of government in Turkey, which was until then a parliamentary form of government, was changed to an executive presidency. So after 94 years after the foundation of the Turkish Republic, the system of a parliamentary form of government was changed into an executive presidency. This was something which resonated a lot with when it comes to the popular vote against the referendum. This was something which resonated significantly with the voters. But when it comes to the opposition leaders, when it comes to those who are opposing in terms of within the parliament and outside, in terms of debating the issue, this did not really strike a chord with them. So if one looks at the kind of things which people were looking at and the kind of things the opposition leaders were looking at, there was some differences, there were some gaps in terms of how the people looked at it and how the opposition leaders also looked at it. So that is something also I think contributed towards passing of the bill, passing of approval of the amendment through the referendum. But that is again a issue which can be debated. Now, when it comes to other issues also, it is not only the change in terms of the executive presidency, but also in terms of how the presidency will be, the kind of powers will the presidency will have. That was a very significant issue, and that is something which will have a profound impact in terms of its future, in terms of Turkey's future. For example, in terms of calling for dissolution of the assembly, dissolution of the parliament, and calling for a fresh elections, even though there are certain caveats, the president now can actually dissolve the parliament and call for a fresh elections. But that is something which is important. The second thing is, for example, the president also has certain power in terms of legislation, which was not there earlier. So that is, again, there are certain caveats in terms of what are the things which the parliament can actually not actually approve. But again, when it comes to legislation through decrees, the president has a significant power. The other thing is the issue of, for example, how the president is not accountable to the parliament. So earlier the parliament can actually question the prime minister, but now the parliament can only question the vice presidents or the minister, not the president directly. So that is also something which is important point, that the executive is no longer directly accountable to the legislature. That is also important as far as the changes are concerned. Then there is other issue of the lifelong presidency for Erdogan, in terms of, for example, once the presidency, the executive presidency came into effect from June 2018, when fresh elections were held and Erdogan won those direct elections. After that, he can have 2 more rounds of presidency. So what will happen is that he can remain president until, if he continues to win, which is very likely, he will remain president until 2030, when he would actually become 86 years old. So it's more like a lifetime presidency for Erdogan, and that was also something which was criticized by many in the opposition and all that. So that is about the executive presidency. Then there is a issue of the reduction in power of the National Assembly, even though in terms of composition it remains the same, but powers, as I mentioned earlier, some of the powers have been reduced. And then there is the issue of judiciary. Now, in terms of appointments of judiciary also, earlier the National Assembly and before some of the other reforms were brought in to change the civil-military relations, the military had some powers in appointment of judiciary. So that is also has been brought under the control of presidency. So in those terms also, it is quite important to note that these issues have been compromised as far as the political institutions are concerned. For example, if you look at the judiciary, there are two important courts: the Constitutional Court and the Court that appoints the higher judiciary, members of higher judiciary. So that is also, for example, more than 50% of the judges can be appointed by the president, and in case there is another issue that if that the president can also remain the head of the a political party, and if the same party is in power in parliament also, which means the president is head of the state, the head of the government, and head of the ruling party, and in that sense, he has almost complete control over who is appointed in judiciary. So that is also something in terms of the division of powers, in terms of the super presidency. I mean, the term which has been used several times is super presidency. In those terms also, there is a lot of debate, and that is something which is very important to note, and which the book actually notes as far as the political system is concerned. Now, let me come to the second issue, that is the civil-military relations, or role of the military in the political system. Again, as I said, if you look at the historical evolution of Turkish polity, the Turkish political system, Turkey has been, one can say, an infatuation with the military rule, and military continued to be a guardian in terms of in terms of the political system, in terms of not only the security establishment, but also in terms of the direction of the polity, the direction of the foreign policy also, and on social issues as well. So that is something which started to change only with the objective of bringing Turkish political system more in tune with the EU parameters. And this precedes the coming to power of AKP, but after coming to power of AKP, some systemic changes have been brought in. And again, it is 2004 onwards, if one looks at it, these systemic changes have been brought. For example, the composition of the National Security Council, the power of the National Security Council have been changed. For example, the military courts have been abolished, and in terms of appointment of judges, the role of military has been brought down. The number of judges with military background has also been brought down. So these are some of the things which has happened in terms of the military, but there has also been, at least in the early stages, both the AKP and and Erdogan as well as the military were very careful in terms of how they manage the relation between between the military establishment and between the elected government, because of the past. Because Turkey has in past seen several times that elected governments have been overturned by military, on several occasions. So that is something which was, so AKP was very careful not to kind of antagonize the military establishment too much, but at the same time, it was very assertive in trying to tell the military brass that, look, we are the elected representative. We will, you have to be subservient to the elected representative. So that is something which continued in the early stages, and then more or less this has been put in the within the structure of the within the system. But it is not as if there has been no resentment because of that. There has been some resentment. There has been, obviously there was this failed coup in 2016. But even before that, for example, during the Ergenekon trials in 2000, between 2009 and 2010 and 2013, there were a lot of resentment among the military rank and file about how they are being treated. Some of them thought that it is, they are being humiliated in public and things like that. But that is again because of the way, the way AKP has kind of changed the system, the way the situation has evolved. It has also the military has not really been successful in terms of bringing any change, and also in terms of the gradually putting I should not use the word infiltration, but systematically putting people who are Islamist leaning or who are supporters of the AKP into the military and security establishment. So that has also played a very important role in that regard. The role of Hizmat, the group led by Fethullah Gulen, that was important, and that came out very prominently after the 2016 coup attempt. So that is something which has to be kept in mind in terms of, if one looks at the situation in Turkey and how things are being played out. That is important. The third thing is the public sphere. Now, in my understanding, and as far as I look at the way situation is evolving in Turkey, I think this is the most important aspect as far as the democratic slide in Turkey is concerned, which is going on. Obviously, the other issues are important when it comes to the civil-military relations. It is in a balance, I would say. In fact, perhaps AKP has done better in terms of asserting the role of or the power of the elected government. But when it comes to the public sphere, this is where this is something which is very important to understand. And this is not just about, not to say that these are not important issues, but this is not just about the crackdown on media and civil society, but the larger issue of what would be the nature of the public sphere, what would be the nature of public discourse, and what would be the direction of the public discourse and debates. And what AKP and Erdogan have done is that they have brought the identity-based Islam, Turk Islam identity-based idea at the center stage of public discourse, and that is something which has led to a situation where any digression, and this has happened through co-option and coercion both, but that is something which is what it actually has done is that any digression in terms of this identity-based debate, this very strong or narrow, you can say, identity-based debate, is either considered the anti-Islam or anti-Turk nation, or it is termed as a Western conspiracy, or conspiracy by enemies of the nation. So in terms of the public discourse, it has become so narrow that any digression or any kind of dissent is not at all acceptable in terms of besides the idea of Turk Islam and Turk identity. So that is something which is very important to understand, and that is something which I have highlighted. In many sense, that also brings the question of slightly going back to the history in terms of how in the early stages of the Turkish Republic, the modern republic, how it was the other way around. So in that sense, perhaps Erdogan's Turkey has become a mirror image of the previous version of very strong militant kind of secular nationalism which was followed in Turkey. Now it is the Islamist nationalism kind of things which is being followed. So many have also termed it as counter-cultural revolution as far as Turkey is concerned. So that is something which is important to note, and which I have highlighted in the book also. And in that sense, one can also say that perhaps Turkey is going back to a stage where it was a one-party polity. So from the foundation of the republic until 1946 formally, and until the 1950 elections, parliamentary election informally in terms of practically, Turkey was a one-party rule. So in that sense, perhaps, even though formally Turkey is still a multi-party system, perhaps we are looking at a situation where it will become a one-party rule, or one ideology kind of a political system. There would be no space for any kind of non-Islamist Turkish identity base. For example, when it comes to the Kurdish issue, most of the Kurdish leaders are in jail now. Some of the elected leaders of the Kurdish party, left-oriented Kurdish party, not the PKK, not the extremist or the militant party, but the mainstream political party, are in jail. Some of the elected mayors, for example, who won during the 2019 local elections, have been dismissed and they have been put in jail. Then, for example, the issue of those who are secular in their in their understanding of the political system, they have also been hounded. Any kind of dissent is also has become a problem for people in Turkey. So and then we have also looked at how the Gezi Park protest was handled in 2013, then how the purges took place after 2016 failed coup. So all these things combined together, it looks like a very bleak picture as far as the democratization process is concerned. And I think maybe I can conclude by saying, and then we can take up all the questions. I mean, if you look at it, there are obviously problems, but there are certain, you can say, silver linings in terms of, for example, the issue of civil-military relations are concerned, or in terms of continued, even though now, if you look at it, the elections have not really been as fair as it used to be earlier, but still the popular elections are being conducted, and the opposition leaders continue to remain popular, and AKP has lost also its some of its support base. There have been a number of leaders recently who have started to leave AKP and form smaller center-right kind of parties. So some of these silver linings can be seen, but as long as Erdogan is there, and as long as he is able to manipulate the political system and the political divide within Turkey and continue to remain in power, I would say that the future doesn't look very bright in terms of how Turkish polity evolves in future. And I think that is something which is important. I'll not go into more details, perhaps also because this will help. Maybe this can lead to some of you download the book from IDSA website, which is freely available, and perhaps read the book. I'll now stop here. Thank you.